Hey there, this is Dennis Anyone with Dennis Hensley. It's a podcast about making things up and making things happen. I love talking to creative people about their work and their journeys and how they hang in and keep going. And today my guest is a singer and actor named David Burnham. He has a show coming to the Catalina Jazz Club in Los Angeles called Burnham Sings Buble. He's a Broadway veteran. He was in the original company of Light in the Piazza. He's also been in Wicked on Broadway and done all kinds of great shows and cabaret shows all over the country. And I first met him years ago. We used to go to the same gym, and he was always super sweet. And then I watched his career blow up, and I'm really excited I got to talk to him. So before we get to the interview, though, I want to remind you that this podcast, Dennis Anyone, is brought to you by me. I do it. I love it. I'm into it. But it takes a lot of time and a little money. So if you want to support the podcast, there are a couple of things you can do. You can go to DennisAnyone.net. And you can kick in a little cash to my virtual tip jar. There's also a thing on there called Buy Me a Coffee. So you could just, for the price of a cup of coffee, you could say, hey, I enjoy the podcast. The other thing you can do is become a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of a group of great shows under the Derek and Romaine podcast banner. And for a monthly fee, you get my show early. And then you get all these other great shows, too. So learn about that at dnrstudios.com. Also want to get a plug-in for 2 Mismatch Game shows that are coming up. On September 14th, we're going to be at Gay Days Anaheim doing our thing. It's super fun. The last time we did it, last year, it was just off the charts nuts. So I'm hoping it'll be that much fun again. That's on September 14th. You can learn about that at Gay Days Anaheim. And then we're doing our 20th anniversary show at the Renberg Theater at the LA LGBT Center on September 28th, a day before my birthday. It's going to be crazy, and tickets are going fast. You can learn about that at lalgbtcenter.org. All right, enough for the plugs. Here now is my interview with David Burnham. Joining me now from Los Angeles, it's David Burnham. He's a singer and actor, and he's performing on September 7th at the Catalina Jazz Club with a show called Burnham Sings Buble. Welcome to the podcast, David.
Hey, Dennis, I'm happy to be here.
Michael Buble, that's your show, your next show. Have you done this for a while, or is this a new thing for you?
It's a brand new show. I was commissioned to do it, to put it together for these people up north. So I'm going to do 4 shows up north and then bring it right down here and debut it here for all my friends and family in the LA area.
So they begged you to do Buble. They're like, you got to do it.
They did. They were like, we have these bookings and we want you to put together a show about Michael Buble. And I was like, great. I'm a Broadway guy, but I'm a big fan of Michael Buble. And what I love about Michael Buble is that not only does he write his own original music, which he's had lots of #1 hits, but he also just stands on the shoulders of his musical heroes. And those are the same heroes as me. Sinatra and Elvis and Nat King Cole and Dean Martin, all these great crooners from back in the day. And so it was an easy fit for me. I really love the classic music, but it's all classic music with a modern spin.
Are you giving us Just Haven't Met You Yet?
Of course.
Okay. Are you giving us Home?
Of course.
Are you giving us Everything?
Everything. I'm giving you everything.
and everything. Here's my Michael Buble story. I am a fan, but my friend Michael was a super fan. Okay. And we went to see Michael Buble at the Wiltern Theater in the mid-aughts. I don't know, 2005, 2006, somewhere in there. And we're in the lobby and we're excited. And this woman with a clipboard comes up and says, would you like to move closer? And we're like, yeah. Front row. And it was the videotaping, the DVD. So you see our faces throughout this DVD just fangirling out over Michael Buble. It's
oh my God.
Yeah, super gay guys are like, it's him. It was good.
I have to look that up. I
can't remember what exactly show it was, but it would have been a DVD video that they made of a concert. And people will occasionally say, hey, is this you? And they'll send me a screen grab. So it's out there.
It's probably a PBS one of his PBS.
Yeah, could have been.
Things.
Could have been.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I'm looking it up.
All right. Look it up. Yeah, I'm right there in the front. When you start diving into his stuff, what did you discover that you didn't know about, or were you like, oh, this little nugget, I want to sing that?
There's tons of little nuggets.
Right.
I had way more material that I wanted to do than I could actually put in the show. And actually the past few days, because I've been doing run-throughs of the show in rehearsal, I've had to just keep trimming so that I don't have like an 8-hour show.
Right.
You know, I'm getting the thing lean and mean. But I really love the fact that, you know, he does all these covers. Right. But I was always under the impression, well, he just does the crooners, basically, you know. But I found out that he covers a lot of unexpected artists as well. So that was fun to explore. You know, he does like an Eagles song. I put this in my show. Like I have a little medley of unexpected artists. You know, there's the Eagles and there's the, you know, Willie Nelson and the Ronettes of all things. You know, I mean, like some really obscure artists, or not obscure, but just ones that you wouldn't have thought he would cover. Yeah. So that's been fun to do. Explore that. And then just, he's done a lot of records. He really has. Yeah. So all the music is so beautiful, and I'm taking it, some of it, and, you know, maybe like a traditional romantic ballad and kind of turning it on its ear a little bit and making it into something a little different with one of my stories. So it's not going to be just a biography about Michael Buble. It's going to be kind of taking his music, but incorporating myself into it. And so what these pieces mean to me and how they kind of relate in my life. So a lot of my real stories about my life will be in there as well. Oh,
cool. Like what's an example of a story you might be telling?
Well, we, of course, there has to be a Christmas section in my show because he is the Christmas boy. So there's one Christmas song in there, and his favorite Christmas song that he ever recorded was Blue Christmas, Elvis Presley's Blue Christmas.
Okay.
I love it's an amazing version that he does. But that song means something to me. I have a special connection to it because when I was a little youngster, I think I was in 6th grade, I had my first girlfriend, 6th grade. She was an older woman. She was in 7th grade.
Right, of course. Right. A little minx, I'm sure.
So for Christmas, I made her a mixtape. Do you remember those?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So I made her a mixtape. And the first song, I spent hours on it, right? And the first song on that mixtape was, of course, Blue Christmas, because she was going away for Christmas for a week and I wouldn't see her. And so that song said everything that my little tortured prepubescent heart had to feel.
Right.
And so I made her this little mixtape. And so the Sunday before she was to leave to her grandma's for the week, we all met at church. We were all going to church. We all went to the same church. And I gave her the little mixtape. And so she said to me, she said, David, meet me, you know, sneak out of church when the service starts. When they take the offering, meet me in the Sunday school room and I'll give you your Christmas present. So I was so excited. I'm like, she got me a Christmas present? Oh, man. You know, I'm like this little innocent 6th grader. So I sneak out of church, run to the Sunday school room, and there she is, and she's got her hands behind her back. So I'm thinking, oh, what does she have? Something special for me. So she says, come closer. So she comes closer, and I come closer, and she says, now close your eyes and open your mouth. So I'm like, oh, I guess she made me a Christmas cookie or something like that. So I'm waiting like this, and then I just can't take the anticipation. I'm so excited that I open my eyes and all I see coming at me is this crazy French kiss planted on my face. And we both had braces. So for the next 5 hours, it seemed, which is probably like 15 seconds, we were attached.
You were like
stuck together. Yes, in church, in the Sunday school room. So finally she pried herself out of my mouth. Right. And she looked at me and she was like, I'm so sorry. That was terrible. And I was like, just,
mortified. So she felt bad instantly.
Said, Can we do it again?
Yeah.
Can we do it again?
Oh, so you were in. You were on. And you guys are still together today, which is amazing. No.
Yeah, right.
It ran its course.
It ran its course for about 10 minutes.
That sneaky little girl.
I know, but it was all due to that little mixtape with Blue Christmas.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, the brace is locking.
I know.
Have you ever met Buble or seen him in concert?
I have seen him in concert, but I have never met him.
Yeah.
Which would be, I would love to. But God, he's so great. He's such an entertainer.
He seems very nice.
Yeah.
I remember when he was with Emily Blunt, and they seemed like a good couple. But,
did you know he wrote everything when he was dating Emily Blunt. He wrote that. When he was
I didn't know that was an Emily Blunt song.
Yeah, it was meant for Emily Blunt.
I occasionally do a Buble at karaoke. It sits in a pretty good place for my voice. What about for you? Did you have to adjust keys, or did it seem to transfer pretty well for you?
Most of it transferred. There's a couple of them that I raise a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he's a little bit more baritone and I'm a little bit more tenor.
Right.
So, and I like to have those high.
You got to have your tenor notes.
Yeah, you got to have those money notes.
Yeah.
So there's just a couple of songs that I raised a little bit just so that the money notes kind of ring out a little bit better for me.
Yeah. This anecdote has nothing to do with you, but you may have insight. A friend of mine recently joined a gay chorus in a major city.
Yeah.
And was initially with the tenors, and it wasn't sitting right in his voice, so they moved him. But also, he thought the tenors were little bitches. The first tenors in particularly.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know if that's a universal thing or just that group, but the second tenors were nice, but something about the first tenors.
Then I claim a second tenor.
You're a second tenor all the way. When did you first know I can sing pretty good? When did you realize?
I was in high school really.
Yeah.
I'd sang like in church and stuff when I was really little.
Right.
Guys sound like it's such a funny, when I talk about when I was little, I was like this church kid with girlfriends and all that. And my life is so different now.
Yeah. What's your church? What church was it?
I went to Fontana First Assembly of God in right. Fontana, this little Pentecostal church,
right on.
Which I don't attend now.
Right.
My church is theater.
Right. Thank you. You know what it's so funny you say that, because I used to I was a Mormon, and when I went to college, I occasionally would go to church on Sundays, and then I started doing shows. Yeah. And that became my Sunday thing. And in a way, I used to say I quit going to church when the rest of my life got too interesting. But it felt like more of I felt closer to something bigger there than I did at church. Yeah.
I mean, I love the community of it. That's what I loved when I was a kid and everything. But now that community, I get the same thing from my theater families. And I'm always doing Sunday matinees anyway. So, I'm always, that's my church now.
So would you sing like in choir in school?
Well, I sang like as a little kid, and then I kind of just, didn't pursue it or anything until then I was in high school, and I was registering for my classes late for whatever reason. And I wanted to get into wood shop. Do you remember when they had wood shop?
Yeah, class? I was in wood shop, and you could either make a gun rack or a cute little shelf that had little sliding doors. And of course, I picked the shelf, and I fucked up the doors. Oh, because they had holes that would open them, and you would slide. And I put the holes like
in the wrong place.
In the wrong spot, so it wasn't satisfying.
Well, you're lucky you still have all your fingers.
I do, yeah.
So many kids would saw off their fingers.
I know. So you wanted to do wood shop.
I wanted to get into wood shop class. I guess I had this. I could be making your cabinets today, I guess.
Right.
But it was full, so the only class they had available was choir. So I was like, choir, I'm going to get my ass kicked. Because I lived kind of in a tough town. I grew up in Fontana, and it was like a tougher town. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm getting, they're going to beat me up. So I walked into choir, and I opened my mouth, and I could sing. I could just sing I just was a natural thing I had, I guess.
And you were a little surprised by it in that moment. Like,
I was a little surprised.
I can do this.
I was like, I guess I can't. But the choir director was like, yeah.
Finally. Yeah.
He's like, a dude in choir. I'm so excited. So there was only a couple of guys in choir, and then all girls. So he took me under his wing, and he encouraged me and encouraged me to get into the musical. We were doing Sound of Music, and so I did that, and I just got the bug, and I loved it. So from then on,
were you Rolf in Sound of Music?
Oh God, I wanted to be Rolf.
Rolf is feels like the sexiest part to be, doesn't it?
I know. I don't know why. Especially growing up,
you're like Nazi. I want to, but nobody's cooler or sexier than Rolf.
You get to sing that song, get to do a little dance, get to ride the bike.
Right.
So I went into the audition thinking I was going to get Rolf. I was like, I'm going to get Rolf, and because that's the part.
Right. That's what you want.
Yeah. And I walked in, and we all had to sing the same song for some reason. We all had to sing "So Long, Farewell, Left You to Sing Goodbye."
Right.
I mean, this is the arts program was kind of sketchy then. So we went in, and I was like, well, how can I let the drama people, how can I let them know that I can really sing, that I can do Rolf? So at the time it got to everybody's going through and doing their little thing. And the part I had to sing was, So long, farewell, if you just saying goodbye, goodbye.
Yeah.
You know that part? So I went in, I don't know what got into my head. I went, so long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, goodbye, goodbye, yeah. Oh. And did this whole riff.
Right.
And they looked at me and they just fell out laughing. And they were like, we love your take on Friedrich, the oldest boy. You made him a comedian, so you got the part of Friedrich.
Oh, so, you were too good, and you turned it into a comic.
Yeah, they thought that was my take, that it was like this funny thing.
Right.
And I was like, I don't want to be wrong. They said, nope, you're Friedrich.
No.
Besides, I was a late bloomer, so I still looked like I was like 10 years old.
Right. You have appeared on Broadway. You were in the original cast of Light in the Piazza. Yeah. What's it like to be in the first cast of a musical that does well, that pops?
Oh, well, it's interesting. It is very interesting because when we did Piazza, it's not the type of show that you instantly know, wow, this is going to be so, the whole world is going to love it. It's very specific and it's very sophisticated.
Right. And it's not based on a movie that everyone's seen or right.
No, it's not. It doesn't have instant recognition. So we didn't know what we had.
Right.
And so we rehearsed for about 6 weeks before, and we got changes all the time. You know, they were working stuff and things would change all throughout previews and everything like that. So we really didn't know. I mean, I loved it. We loved it. We were like, we think this is really gorgeous, but you never know how it's going to be received. And so I'll never forget because I covered Matthew Morrison, who originated the role.
Right.
I was his understudy. And then I eventually took over the role and then did it, and then got the national tour as well, did the national tour as the role of
Fabrizio. Yeah.
But initially I was the understudy. And so I'll never forget opening night, you know, after we did the final curtain call, you know, we came out and did the last notes rang out and we came out for our curtain call. The audience, it was like a pause, and then the audience jumped to their feet, and I'd never felt a rush of like energy and love coming at you. It was literally, you could feel this coming at you of just like, oh, we loved it. And we all just burst out in tears, the whole cast, because it was like, oh, I guess they liked it.
Right.
They liked it. And it lasted for like, 10 minutes, this ovation. So it was thrilling. And the next day, it was a matinee day. I think we opened on a Sunday or something like that. And the next day was a matinee 2-show day. And I got the call before the matinee that Matthew was out, that he was going to miss the performance. And we hadn't had rehearsal yet, understudy rehearsal. So I got the call about, I don't know, it was like an hour and a half before the show started. And luckily for me, I'm such a theater nerd that I always sat in the wings and watched everything they were doing, Matthew was doing, because the show was changing daily and everything.
Right. This is really early to go on as an understudy, right?
The second day. Yeah. Really early. And they were like, we're so sorry about this, but Matthew blew it out last night, or whatever reason. Yeah. He blew it out last night in the show. And so we need you to go on. And I was like, I don't know all the blocking, but I knew all the music and I knew all the dialogue because there's so much Italian in it that we had a dialect coach and stuff like that. So I'd really worked on that. I knew all the music down, but not all the blocking. Right. So they said, just Kelly O'Hara and Victoria Clark will just kind of take you along and, kind of usher you around and move you around. So that's what happened for the first show. They just kind of took me under their wing and showed me where to go. And at the end of the show, it was thrilling because the audience just went crazy for it, and everything like that. And then between shows, because we had another show that night, I learned all the blocking. So I knew what I was doing by the night show. But boy,
so you got to do two right away.
Yeah, being shot out of a cannon.
I think sometimes audiences are like, oh, I don't get to see the star that I know when it's an understudy. Right. And then there's that other thing of like, oh, I'm rooting for this person. I know how exciting. If you're more into the theater world, this is so exciting for them. They've been practicing and all of that. Did you feel that the audience was like rooting for you in a way that's more than a typical show?
I did. I felt like they were on my side.
And the fellow cast members too, I'm sure.
Everybody was like in the wings watching, and literally because Kelly and I, we had to have a love scene and, all this stuff. So Kelly was just like so there and open and like, what do you need? What do you need from me? So there was this feeling of like everybody just kind of held me in their hands and was like, we want you to be great. And so it just gave me permission to be great. And so I just went for it and wasn't afraid. And I was happy when they announced it that there was no like, oh, like Matthew Morrison won't be in the show. The role will be played by David Burnham. There was no, there was just like, quiet. Because nobody knew what the show was yet.
Right.
And Matthew wasn't as big of a star as he is now. So it wasn't like he was.
Yeah, this was pre-Glee. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still pissed that Mario Lopez was out of Chorus Line when I went to see Chorus Line. So that's
no
okay.
way.
Yeah. I was like, it still hurts a little when I think about it. That's amazing though, that you were able to do those shows right away. I've done some performing, not obviously like that, but nerves affect the voice for me. When you're nervous, you could still walk, but it really affects how you sing, right?
Yeah.
How do you deal with singing and your voice? And nerves. I mean, nerves in your voice.
Yeah. Because it can like lock you up a little bit.
But you could still, if you're a dancer, you could still do it. But I think it can really affect the voice in a way that's really gets in the way of what you're trying to do.
Sure. It can affect me, and it has affected me throughout my career. But the thing that I'm lucky, I studied with a voice teacher named Eric Vitro. And Eric has since I was, I guess I was 20 years old when I met him. And so I've been studying with him this whole time. He's taught me a lot of techniques that help me.
Right.
And some things I do right before I go on, because I still get, I can still get very nervous and stuff like this. And I can do some yoga poses.
Right.
I do the lion's pose. Have you ever heard of that?
I learned Dixie Carter does it.
The whole body and
sticks her tongue out. Yeah.
Kind of tense everything and then relax it, and you can kind of feel the blood go, and then you go right on stage and it's like, I just released that that tension and energy. So it depends. It depends. I get nervous if it's something new.
Right.
So this Buble show, I'm a little like, what's going to happen?
It's going to be awesome.
Mostly nervous that I'll forget lyrics.
Yeah. You also played Fiero in Wicked. Another fun part. Are you excited for the movie?
Oh, so excited.
The trailer looks really good, right? It looks like they really captured something alive and fresh. I'm excited.
Yeah, it looks visually stunning. And I'm friends with Ariana because we had done some readings of a musical a few years before she was Ariana Grande.
Right.
So she's like my little sister. So I'm like, oh, yes, go Ari. She always wanted to be on Broadway. I mean, she's a Broadway girl. She's a theater girl, but who just kind of
she just became a pop star, and we don't think of her as an actor really, but I think she's a great actor.
She's a great actor and really funny. She is really funny. Yeah. So I think that I can't wait to see what she does with this role. And I've heard some of her singing in it. She sounds amazing. Yeah.
I think for people that find success on Broadway or some of these stars that we know, there was always that first role or that first casting person or director that said, yes, you. What was your one where it took you up a level, where somebody took a chance on you and gave you a moment to really shine, and then that kind of changed the trajectory?
Well, I was still in college, and I didn't have an agent yet.
Right.
And so I auditioned for a musical called Ragtime. You remember Ragtime?
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I saw it here at the Schubert when it was on Avenue of the Stars.
Yeah,
it's one of my favorites.
That was just coming out, so I crashed the audition for that. And I showed up and I had long hair down to like my nipples,
right?
and ripped jeans and a tank top and flip flops is what I was wearing.
You were giving them Constantine Rizzulli from American Idol, yeah.
Totally.
Okay.
I think I was just giving them. I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Right.
I was so green, but I showed up and I had been doing a production not a community, well, like a small production of Joseph.
Right.
Joseph. So I kind of was very tan and
right.
Like that. So I went in and I sang a song from Joseph. And they took one look at me first. They said, "You're not right for this show, so don't even bother." And I said, "Just I'm here. Please, just let me sing." And they said, "All right, you can sing."
So you just showed up without an appointment or anything. Yeah. Love it.
And it was like at the end of the day, and they, for whatever reason, they had a room and they let me sing.
Right.
So I went in and I sang. And I ended the song, and they looked at each other, and they said, "Can you come back tonight for the callbacks?" And I was like, "Oh, I guess I was right." And they said, "No, you're not right for this show, but you're perfect for something else we're casting." They happen to be looking for someone to replace the lead actor in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, the national tour.
Right.
And lucky for me, the actor they were looking to replace was Donny Osmond. So I was like,
you've got that Osmond smile. Yeah, you're giving me Osmond a little bit.
I can give you some
Osmond adjacent.
Yes.
Wow. So
I showed up that night, and everybody was, dressed like turn of the century,
ragtime,
ragtime, and I showed up still in my tank
hippie,
top, flip flops and long crazy hair. And so they stopped the audition in the middle, and they said, "We're going to have David. David is going to come in and sing for you for Joseph," because the head of Live Ent Entertainment was there, Garth Drabinsky, but the people, the ragtime people were there too. So Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty, Terrence McNally, all these people. So there was like 20 people at this table because it was callbacks for ragtime. And they stopped it, and I went in and I sang my song. I sang "Close Every Door." I kneeled on the ground and did the whole thing because I just was doing it, in my little community theater production. And they said afterwards, I ended the last note, and Garth Drabinsky said, "Hey, can you fly to Toronto tomorrow?" And I was like, "Let me check my schedule." Yes.
Yeah.
So he said, "We want you to meet the director." So the next day I was on a plane to Toronto, got off, went to the theater, sang my song for the director, Stephen Pimlott, and then on the phone was Andrew Lloyd Webber from London.
Holy shit.
And I sang my song. I'm still in a freaking tank top and flip-flops and jeans. And I finished the last song, and he says, "Okay," and they talk on the phone. They go, "Okay, David, we'd like you to replace Donny Osmond in the national tour of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. You have a costume fitting right now, and you're going to do a photo shoot in a half hour. Thank you. Congratulations. We'll see you in a month."
Wow. So were you still in the community theater production at the time? Did you have
It had just ended.
So you didn't have to say, "Hey, I have to bail because I'm doing the big one."
Yeah,
wow.
It had just ended. So within the next few minutes, I was spinning in the coat, and the look on my face is kind of shock. And the pictures when I look at the pictures, the posters and everything, you can see just this what? This look of amazement. And then I was back on a plane and went back to LA, and I was like, did that just happen?
Did I just dream that? That feels like the kind of thing you would dream when you were just sort of being like a daydream, hopeful.
It was so surreal. So that was my first big break. And
that's incredible. Yeah.
Arnold Mangioli was the casting director. So I give Arnold Mangioli the credit because he's the one who was like, I see something in this. And he was the one who made it happen for me.
I love that. So did you interact much with Donny? Did he show you did you have a handover kind of moment?
He kind of took me under his wing and taught me the show, and I, shadowed him for a week, and he was so nice. And then he flew off back to Utah afterwards. Yeah. I'll never forget my opening night though. I was getting ready to sing "Close Every Door."
Right.
And I'm in my little teeny loincloth.
Right.
And I go down to the edge of the stage and I kneel down at the edge. I feel like the entire front row is looking at my skirt. I'm like, oh God, what's happening? But I'm sitting there ready to sing, and the music starts, and there's some guy in the front row going like this. Yeah, come on, you can do this. Come on. I'm like, this isn't distracting at all, right? So he finally calms down, this heckler, and I'm finished my song, and he jumps to his feet. The audience goes crazy, and I'm like, who is this guy? I was trying to stay in
security, yeah.
Yeah, I look down, and I trying to give him the stink eye, and I notice it's Donny frickin' Osmond. He came back just for my opening night. He sat right in the front row. It was so nice.
That's so sweet. I like those Osmonds. I like them ironically and unironically, both.
Yeah, they're good people. They're really
good
nice people.
And I saw the Donny and Marie show when they did the Christmas thing, and then in the middle, Marie sings opera, and then Donny does a boy band section because he secretly wants to be a Backstreet Boy deep down. He's still doing hardcore choreography, in parking garages and music videos. It's just everything.
Yep.
And then he ran up the aisle, and I held up my hand, and he hit my hand, and I was like, fuck yes.
Yeah.
I love that Donny showed up for you to give you the handover moment.
It was so nice. It was so unexpected. I was thrilled.
I love that. So before doing Michael Buble, you did Tom Jones,
I do a Tom Jones show, yeah.
I had the pleasure of interviewing for Los Angeles Magazine in like the early 90s. And I went to his house, like in Brentwood. It was like this cool, fancy old Hollywood brick house. But I remember asking him about the tight pants, and he looked kind of bewildered and like I think I crossed a line. I was younger then. I had more. I don't know. Maybe it was inappropriate. But how tight were the pants when you do Tom Jones? Because that is a part of the thing.
Yeah. They're so tight that one night I nearly passed out.
Really? You almost passed out.
I think it was after COVID when we all had like the COVID-10.
Yeah.
You know, we all put on a little bit of weight. And so they were so tight that I was like, and I was singing, I was singing, I don't remember, like I Who Have Nothing or something like that. I was looking at some lady in the audience and I was like, I had to sit down on that stage. And she thought I was just being dramatic, like I'm overcome by the love for this lady. And I sat down on the stage because I was like, I'm going to pass out. I got to lose it. At intermission, I undid the button, I think. But they're pretty tight. Oh, my God. They're painted on there.
Now,
but I've lost the 10 pounds so I can wear them again.
You're back to the Tom Jones, the thing. Yeah.
My fighting weight.
Right. But that must have been fun, too. What was cool about doing that? What did you like about it?
It's so fun. Well, I'm not an impersonator, so it's an homage to him and his music. I'm not a lookalike. I'm not a sound-alike, and I say that right out of the gate. But I do give, the feel of Tom Jones. I wear tight pants and the open shirt and stuff like that. But I'm me up there. But that show is like insanely fun to do because his music is great. He has great music, and his stuff. You have to be theatrical to be able to do Tom Jones music because it's big music. He sings in the stratosphere, but he's also. It's like these huge songs. So for me, technically, as a singer, it's really challenging. It's really fun, and I get to really sink my teeth into it. But there's also a lot of humor in that show because, the panties being thrown at the stage, and there's so much like craziness. And in the time period that he lived, where he was like in his prime, it was great. I mean, he did What's New Pussycat, and
She's a Lady is my favorite.
She's a Lady, sure. Yeah. All these great songs, but now we look at them, they're kind of fun and kitschy a little bit. They have they're fun of that period. So there's a lot of fun stuff in there.
But he's had a great voice, a killer voice,
amazing voice.
Yeah, don't let the tight pants distract from that part.
No, it's a great voice.
With Tom Jones and some of the characters you played on stage, they're sort of like leading man, kind of matinee idol, like swoony guys. Did you get those kind of fans, like almost like Teen Idol kind of vibe with some of the characters? Did you feel that with the kind of fans that you would see at the stage door and stuff?
With Joseph, yes.
Joseph was the one. The girls went crazy for Joseph.
Well, because it was Donny Osmond before, so he had done it for so many years.
Right.
There was people would come and see it 100 times, there was that kind of thing. And so when I took over, they kind of latched onto me a little bit. They were like, oh, because Donny, embraced me. And so it was like, this is my guy. And I looked Osmondish and all this stuff. So I had to have a bodyguard actually, at the stage door and everything because there were the fans and everything. And I was so young. I was just like in my early 20s and it was my first big thing. I thought that's what it was always going to be like. I was like, oh, I'm a star now, and this is amazing. I'm going to have bodyguards.
Right.
So that was interesting. And then when the show ended, I went to New York, and I had never been to New York before.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I'm just going to...
I'm here, New York.
I'm here. I've arrived. I'm a star, and isn't it all going to happen to me? And I couldn't get arrested in New York. So for like 6 months, I tried, and nothing happened. And so I went back to L.A. and kind of began my career over again and, went back to studying acting and singing and then building up a resume. Because it happened so early for me, like kind of that big thing, that I had to go back and just kind of do roles and kind of,
and kind of pay the dues that you got to skip a whole class.
So I did that.
I remember meeting you and seeing you at the Bally's Gym in Studio City, right? And
totally.
And I didn't know that you had been on tour or any of that stuff. So that was probably during the time when you were taking classes and kind of reinventing. Did you ever get really discouraged during that time and think, man, should I do something else? Like, what was that time like?
Dennis, I had a complete nervous breakdown pretty much. I got so depressed because when you go to that high of a
Right.
kind of thing, and you're young and you don't know, so it's just like, this is what it's going to be. And then going to New York and just really, just the rejection of it all.
Right.
I couldn't put it all together.
And you're pretty young, right? How old were you?
Yeah, early 20s, very young. And so I was like, I had to go back and reassess. Really did reassess my life, and I'm like, do I really want to do this? I had to ask myself, and started from scratch, and that was, I think, saved me. Kind of going back into class and going and just going back and doing community theater and anything that I could do just to build up my resume and to learn my craft, basically.
Right.
And that's when I met Stephen Schwartz and started doing the workshops of Wicked. I did those for 5 years, originated the role of Fiero even before it went to Broadway. So I started doing a lot of things that were really cool.
So you would have been like in the workshop, the first person to sing like Dancing Through Life or something.
Yeah.
Wow.
I originated the role of Fiero for 5 years in those workshops. And then they ended up casting Norbert.
Right.
Because they brought in Adina, and they didn't feel like I looked kind of right with Adina and Kristen and all this. And I was very young still, so I skewed like I still looked maybe too young.
Right.
And so they went with Norbert. And then luckily, right during that time, right after that, I got Light in the Piazza. And then after I did Light in the Piazza for 2.5 years, I was doing my club act in New York, a little concert, and Stephen came and saw it, Stephen Schwartz, and he's a dear friend of mine. I love him. And he was always my champion. And he said, David, I want you to go back into Wicked. So literally the next day I got a call, and he brought me as Fiero and Stephanie Block, who was the original Elphaba, and Lenny Wolpe, who was the original Wizard in all the workshops. The three of us got to do it again on Broadway. So that was so much fun.
And deserved, right? It must be, you hear those stories all the time. So-and-so originated the role, and then they gave it to so-and-so. And
there was no closure.
Right. It's devastating, right? And you have to act like, oh, I get it. I'm a good sport. I know how it, but it must be devastating.
That was another moment of like nervous breakdown time. I was like,
what am I doing?
I've done all the work. I did it all, and now it's going to happen. And then when I got that call, I was like, this job, this
business is like, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
man.
then when it came full circle, I was like, oh, I got to complete that kind of journey, that Wicked journey. And it was great. It was so fun. I love being part of
when you go back and do like Light in the Piazza after like those years where it wasn't as busy, do you appreciate it a lot more because of like, what it took to get there compared to Joseph?
Completely. I remember doing Light in the Piazza, and on opening night, it's making sure I took stock and said to myself, as I was getting the bow, going, David, you are on Broadway in a Broadway show, making your Broadway debut. Enjoy this moment. Take it in. Don't take it for granted. So I was very present for that, and made sure that I was thankful and grateful for the moment. And I truly was. And I still am. I'm so lucky with the career that I've had, and that I still, knock on wood, make a career singing and doing this business.
Well, it seems like you live in Los Angeles now. That's your home base. Because it seems like you either make New York your thing, or you do kind of what you do, which is find ways to perform and do club acts and then do shows. And like, how do you build a career as the kind of performer you are and not just be in New York doing Broadway? Is it doing concerts? Is it like doing a show here for a while? Like, how do you build a life? For me, I diversified a lot. Right. When I'm not doing, because after I did Wicked, I was in New York for like 5 years for Light in the Piazza, and then went into Wicked. I lived there for about 5 years, but I'm a country kid. I grew up on a farm, and so I needed like earth. I needed to concrete wasn't cutting it for me. So that's when after I did Wicked, I was like, I got to go home for a bit and kind of feel my roots. And so I did. And now what I do is, a lot of auditions are now on, you can do video submissions and things like that. But I'll audition for things, or I'll fly back and audition for them, or I do lots of regional work. But I make sure that's when I developed my concert career.
And I first started I would get symphony jobs and things like that,
Where you would go in and sing a few songs with a symphony on a Broadway night or whatever.
Yeah, just we're doing a Broadway night, and we're Joseph is part of it. Will you come in and do that or something like that? So I would started out doing that, and I loved it.
Yeah, because you get to sing with an orchestra, and they're amazing, right? It's not just some guy at a piano.
Yeah, it's thrilling. You ride that rush of music. It's so thrilling. So that started it, and then I like the interaction between the audience and myself. And some musical theater performers can't make that transition because they're used to playing a character.
They need that character, and it's a different thing. Yeah.
But when you have to be yourself, they can't do it. And so sometimes they're really stiff and they can't, they don't know how to do it. But for me, I just loved having the freedom to do whatever and go wherever that energy took me. Like if it was going to be different every night, I loved it. Who's the audience?
Right.
They're going to respond differently. So I do a lot of interacting with my audience, which is fun for me.
I love that. What's the dream gig? Is there a show that you would love to do, or is it something new that hasn't been written yet? Or
yeah, I think just creating new stuff.
Right.
I would love to create a Broadway show. Create a Broadway role would be wonderful before I die. It would be amazing to do. But if not, then I am very happy doing what I do, and I'm creating a new show. This Buble show. It's been in creation. I've been working for the past, probably 4 or 5 months on it.
Right.
And me being in charge of kind of the whole thing, it's so fun to express what I want to express.
Right. To take these songs and thread your own sort of story
in
them. What are you wearing for Buble?
I got a new suit.
Nice.
New tailored suit. Very nice. Giving you kind of a nod to him. With a little tie.
It's nice.
Navy,
like that
kind of dark blue. It's pretty.
Canadian niceness. You have to be nice now. You have to be nicer than normal. No,
I know that's going to be hard.
Yeah, no, you're always nice. Musical theater strikes me as an area of show business where there's less attention on gay guys playing straight leading man or anything. It doesn't seem like it's a thing compared to say Hollywood or whatever. Was that ever a thing as you were journeying? Were there conversations about that, or people being out or not out, or was that just a done deal by the time you were starting in that world?
I don't know. Everybody's experience is different.
Right.
I'm gay. So when I started, I just didn't talk about it.
Right.
We just didn't talk about it because I didn't want to. It's not like it is now where people are much more open about things. So I just didn't. It wasn't that I was not out or anything. It was just I just kept it very private.
Right. And you had just gotten thrown into it anyway. You were probably just like,
yeah,
just like totally. Deer in headlights. Yeah.
And I do remember being in Joseph, and the publicity guy was saying, and I said, am I supposed to not, am I not allowed to talk about that? Or
what's the deal? Or are there no conversations? I'm just interested in how things have evolved. It's interesting.
It had totally evolved. And even back then they were they were, to their credit, I started in Toronto in Canada. To their credit, he was like, you don't necessarily have to be in the closet or anything, but the type of show this is, it's a kid's show and everything, that we just don't encourage you to, kind of talk about, your private life that much. If you want to, whatever. And so I was like, okay, but they did allow me to, I hosted the AIDS parade, they did this big AIDS benefit and thing. And I was the grand marshal of it. And so I still had a connection to the community and stuff like that. And I did lots of things with the community, but I just never necessarily said, hey, so I'm dating this guy and blah, 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 didn't divulge that. Whereas now it's different, we've really come a long way. And I think, you can be more open about your sexuality and things like that. But I still think in musical theater, though, I still come across it where they're like, this guy appears more,
light in the loafers or whatever they would write on the resume.
Whatever. And I'll come across that every once in a while and go like, God, isn't that so old fashioned?
Yeah.
Are we still there? But
yeah.
You never.
One of the things I like about social media, which I don't love it, but I know if I go to a show and there's a cute guy in the cast that I can go find him on Instagram and follow him. So I went on your Instagram and there's lots of fun pictures of you performing and things like that. What are you into that? Do you enjoy it? Is it something they tell you to do? Like, how do you feel about social media? Because I think it's a great tool because these actors that I've seen in shows, or if somebody knocks me out with their talent, it's not just the cuties, but if there's cuties that they went on to a hike on Runyon Canyon and their shirt's probably not on.
Totally. I wish I was better at it, Dennis, to be honest.
I'm with you. It doesn't excite me. I don't, it doesn't like turn me on to do it, to post and things. Whatever. But it's an interesting thing.
The youngins, they're brought up with it. That's what they're
all about it.
I wouldn't grow up with it and stuff. So for me, I use it mostly for business,
right?
To tell people what I'm doing. I'm doing this concert and that, and occasionally I'll post, "This is my dog" or whatever. Right. But I am a private person just naturally. Right. I'm kind of keep to myself as far as like my own business because my life is so out there when I'm on stage and so vulnerable and I blah 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 that when I'm off stage, I like to keep it for myself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I'm not one of those people that publishes everything on social media. I'm going to the market here, and I did this, and I'm here, and blah blah blah. I just that's not me. So I use it as a tool, like you said, and I use it as much as I could. I wish I was better at it, though. Yeah,
some people really get into it. I'm not that into it. You mentioned the long hair that you had for Joseph. You had some good character hair. What character had the best hair?
Oh well, Joseph. I mean, come on.
Was it yours? Or was it a wig?
I had that hair, but I couldn't wear it in the show like that because I was naked the whole time with just a loincloth. So they had built me a wig that looked exactly like my hair because the mic pack went right up in here. And I had two mic packs in the hair. So
the mic packs were in the hair?
Yeah, under the wig. So I would do the whole show like that. And then at the end during the mega mix, I have a handheld. So we'd end the show proper, and then during the bows, everybody would come out. And since I had the last bow, I would take the wig off, fluff my hair like a lion's mane, and then had the handheld, so I didn't have the mics in, and then I would use my own hair for the end.
Ah, the secret of show business, because you
played but nobody ever knew. They thought it looked exactly the same.
Oh, well done. Because you did the wolf not long ago in Into the Woods. That was good hair.
That was just not long ago. I just cut. This is just brand new. I just cut it for the Buble show. Yeah. But I was down to here for Into the Woods, where I played the wolf in the Cinderella's Prince.
Yeah. Was that a blast?
Oh my God. So much fun. So much fun. And they asked me, Steve Baldini down at Vista Moonlight Amphitheater, which does great work. When he asked me to do it, he's like, "And are you going to have your long hair?" And at the time, it was kind of mid. And
you have really good hair. You had you still do, but that haircut was like long and you were born to be a prince.
I let it grow out, and then I used it so that every time I would appear, I would just kind of shake it, and it became a bit, and so worked for comedic purposes. But that was so much fun to do those two roles because there was not the pressure of carrying a show. You're not the lead character. You're kind of the side character who comes in and just has so much fun. I get to just be so over the top and all this. I'm kind of enjoying those roles. And the summer before, I got to do Shakespeare in Something Rotten. Right. And it's the same kind of thing. You go on and you're not the lead character. You're kind of the secondary guy, but you get all the fun stuff and you get to be funny. And I love the funny because so much of my career was like you said, like the leading man, the romantic lead and all that. But I'm actually a goofball in real life. So I love when I can be funny and do the character work. That's fun for me.
Yeah. I also love in musicals when the curtain call's happening because I try to pick up on cues. I'm like, who likes who? How do they feel? Like, how's it going? How's everyone doing?
The real people for a second.
Yeah. And sometimes it's striking that like somebody looks like a different person than they just did 2 seconds ago in character and nothing has changed. They just, it's sometimes that happens too. What do you think about curtain calls? Do they feel good? Do you have a style of bow? Like, what's your thing?
I like curtain calls. I mean, I think they're fun because you do get that moment to just kind of be yourself for a second. it's not me. It's, you know,
Right.
so I always have fun with them. And like you said, you try to just be natural and have a good time. So yeah, I love curtain calls.
It's all good. And coming out the stage door, do you have a strategy? Because I once watched Anthony Rapp come out of a stage door, and he gave everyone their moment. He was gracious, and he kept it moving. I was like,
Keep it moving.
that was impressive. Because it was like, no one could say he was a jerk, but he kept it moving. He had it down. And I was like, well done, sir. You should do like that masterclass on how to do a stage door moment. Yeah.
It totally depends on the show.
Right.
Like when I was doing Joseph and Wicked, those you had to keep it moving because hordes of people at the stage door. And luckily you have handlers and stuff with those big shows so they can say, David's got to go now or whatever. But when I'm doing just my shows or, you know, these smaller, you know, shows like Into the Woods, I love meeting with the people after. I adore it because that's when, that's how you build a fan base. Yeah. And that's how you can kind of, I don't know, gauge how people really feel about what you've done and all this. And I always think of it as we're in this together. It's not us versus them. Right. Like I hate when people say, God, the audience is so mean tonight. And so then therefore they kind of dial back their performance or something like that, where the audience could be totally enjoying it, but just for whatever reason, they're not, you know, very applauding.
Sure.
Or, you know,
they could be experiencing it in a more like
deeper down
way. Yeah.
So I try to think that we went on this journey together and to give them their time because they feel like they get to know you because they've just spent 2.5 hours, you know, or 2 hours kind of with you. And so I like to meet people and to take a moment and have a good time and chat with them and get to know them.
When you had the bodyguards on Joseph, were they cool? Were they nice? Did you get to know them?
Totally. Yeah.
Would you guys like go to diners and stuff?
Yeah, he became a friend. And
yeah.
He was just this really nice guy. And it was so long ago now. I lost track of him.
Right.
He was super cool, a big guy.
What a heady experience to go from crashing an audition to being on a national tour. Like, just that blows my mind. Yeah.
It was surreal. Yeah. It wasn't reality. It didn't feel like reality.
Tell people how they can come and see you in Los Angeles. It's at the Catalina Jazz Club on Saturday, September 7th at 8:30. Yeah. Burnham Sings Buble.
Burnham Sings Buble, and it's Catalina Jazz Club's great because you can get dinner there, you can have drinks, you can do the whole thing, and it's such a great venue if people haven't been there. It's a beautiful venue, and I'm gonna have a little combo with me, so it'll be piano, bass, and drums. So it's a nice little feel, and they can go. Chris Isaacson is presenting this.
I love it.
So they can go to chrisisaacson.com and go get tickets or look up Catalina Jazz Club for tickets. Look me up on Facebook. I have lots of little things up there and come out and see me and then stay out after and say, oh, I saw Dennis's podcast.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And hopefully you'll be doing this show more and more in different places because it's just beginning. Yeah. I like it.
What's the great thing is I just booked 2 shows today.
Oh, good.
Because somebody heard that I was doing it at Catalina Jazz Club, and they're like, we want that show, so I'm going to go do it back in, I think it's South Carolina in February.
I love it.
All over.
Here's my final question.
Yeah.
You obviously sing all kinds of different music. What song really moves you to sing it? When you sing it, you feel it.
Well, that's easy, because there's a song that I do in my Broadway show that is not a Broadway song. It's actually a song that is about my mom. And my mom had passed away when I was 20 years old.
Wow.
She had cancer. And so I'd always wanted to sing a song, to kind of dedicate a song to my mom and sing it. And I couldn't find it for many years. And finally, my friend John Boswell. Do you know John? Beautiful pianist.
Was he married to Kathy Najimy? Is that John Boswell? I think so.
That is the John Boswell. I don't think they were ever married.
Or they were a couple.
Together for a long time.
Yeah.
But John used to play my shows, and we're still great friends, and we do shows every once in a while. But I was talking to John one day, and I was like, I can't find this. I want to put a song in the show about my mom. And I can't do it. I would write one, but it was so close to me that I couldn't get the words out.
Right.
So he's like, just listen to this song. And he found this obscure song by it's a Christian artist. His name's David Phelps. And it was a song called Fly Again. And in that song, he was singing it about, I think, his dad or his uncle. So the pronouns were man. And so I listened to it, and it said everything that I wanted to say. If I could write a song, that's what I wanted to say, because it was a message of hope. Right. Like this song, but at the same time, it's a beautiful, beautiful song. So I just changed the pronouns to She Will Fly Again. And I do that in my Broadway show. And without fail, every time I sing it, it feels like the first time.
Yeah. And I noticed you have a couple of albums, and that's one of the titles of one of your albums. Yeah.
That's on my second album that I did, which is a lot more pop music on it. But yeah, it's called Fly Again. It's a gorgeous song. So and people have approached me, and they played it like at, a funeral or something, or somewhere where they want to, if they've lost somebody, they play it, and my version of it. And I'm really honored about that. So
right. That's beautiful. So it sounds like your mother passed right around the time that the tour and everything was happening. That must have been such a heady time, right?
Yeah, it all happened kind of at the same time. It was like my mom passed away, and like literally probably weeks later or months later, right at the same time, I had the audition, got the Joseph, and the whole thing happened. So I almost felt like my mom was kind of going, okay, because I kind of quit school and just, I put school on, pause while I stayed with my mom while she had cancer, and we kind of hung out. So that finished, and before she passed, she was like, David, whatever you do with your life, I want you to be happy. So make sure you go for it, live your life. And when she passed, it was almost like this opportunity opened.
Right. Almost like you felt like this was kind of like she was in on it in a way, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. It was amazing.
Wow. What a time. David, I've loved this conversation. I loved getting to hear about your journey, and congrats on the new show. And I look forward to seeing it. And thank you for doing the podcast. I appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. It's so fun to get to chat with somebody that I know a little bit. That we get to, somebody I like. And
you're always so sweet when I see you. You're always so sweet. Like you have that energy. So yay. All right. I love it. All right.
Thanks for having me, Dennis.
It's my pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks again to David Burnham. Check out his show, Burnham Sings Buble, if you're in LA on September 7th at Catalina Jazz Club. Or follow him on Instagram and keep up with where he's going to be performing next. All right, so this happened. I went to a movie the other night at Vidiot's that I hadn't seen in a long time, My Beautiful Laundrette, right? With Daniel Day-Lewis. And it was like maybe his first movie. And it was sort of thought of as a sort of an iconic gay story. And I saw it when it came out, but I remember very little about it. And so I was expecting like this big love story, and that is a part of it, but it's much more of a sort of family immigrant saga. In the UK, there's this Pakistani family and this young man named Omar, who's the protagonist, who's super cute, and I don't remember his name of the actor because he didn't become Daniel Day-Lewis, but he was dreamy. But what I did love about it was that the love story was treated very matter-of-factly, like it was just part of this tapestry of stories. And for that time, I think it was probably amazing that it wasn't a fraught thing. And they were sweet together. So anyway, I love Vidiot's. I'm waiting to see what they're going to be showing on my birthday, because that might be a birthday outing thing that I do the day after the Mismatch game. So anyway, it's a great place. The other day, I saw All the President's Men at Vidiot's as well. And I love how that movie makes talking on the phone and typing like the most dramatic thing you've ever seen. And also Redford and Hoffman, their faces, the acting, just so great. Anyway, I love Vidiot's. I love old movies, and that's it. All right. Thank you for listening. I want to give a shout out to Oscar Rosario for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Placement Music. We'll catch you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye.